Speed bomb every fallow space you find. Take the road, let's travel. Do it while you can. Have yourself a silly little time. Running ever forward without a single care, never looking back at what's behind. Paint with every color, with flowers in your hair. Have yourself a silly little time.
Good evening, good afternoon, good morning, friends, Romans, countrymen. This is your host, A Silly Little Time, back at it again with another rendition of A Silly Little Dispatch. Thanks for joining me today. I am, as ever, your humble correspondent, host, A Silly Little Time. And folks, if you're joining me on this podcast, I hesitate to call it a podcast since I'm just yapping into my microphone here in my makeshift studio. But that being said, if you are joining me tonight or this afternoon or this morning, well, folks, you have bought yourself a ticket on Priceline.com, a one-way ticket to Yap City. And the weather in Yap City right now is about 50 degrees. Very rainy with a lot of wind, so get your raincoats and umbrellas ready because it is, what is it? This is the 4th of May now? Yeah, it's the 4th of May, and the weather has not really turned all that much. Should be spring, but, well, we're past April showers now, and we're getting into May showers, so hopefully we can expect some June flowers, with any luck. So, it's been a minute since I've done one of these. This is going to be on my YouTube channel, of course. I had an iteration of A Silly Little Dispatch that was on another platform, but I decided to give it a chance again, get the microphone going and just yap for a little bit about what I've been up to. Yeah, you may ask, A Silly Little Time, hey, how's it going? How's it going, man? What are you up to? What are you doing? What's cracking? And to that I'd reply, well, there's a lot that's new, things going on, doing stuff, making moves, a lot of stuff you don't care to hear about, not important, but creatively, I have been very busy indeed, as a matter of fact. I have taken a little bit of a hiatus from music, although in March I did release a single called To Plastic We Return. Yeah, that's To Plastic We Return. It's on my YouTube channel, on my Bandcamp as well, so give that a listen. Good song, good work. That one's been kicking around for a while, but I finally committed and recorded it and got it all done up, and I'm fairly pleased with the results, so give that a listen. Excellent song, talks about, brings all the concerns about brain rot and, microplastics and the impermanence of our lives here in America 2024 AD and all the anxieties that we feel about that, and gives us a little bit of hope. That, before, what was it? From dust we all were made before the end of history. And, but now we're made of plastic, and we have plastic in our blood, and all that sort of good stuff. Very unfortunate, but the chorus of the song is, broken bones can heal, but broken branches never grow. They've poisoned the ground beneath our feet. Blood retains the memory that plastic never knows. So has it always been, and so shall it always be. So, just got to keep pushing on in the future. Things may not be great now, but maybe in your kid's lifetime, they'll be better. Always just keep pushing and trying to make the world a better place, one step at a time, one day at a time. So don't lose hope. Bring a little joy into someone's life. Do something nice for yourself, for your wife, your husband, your boyfriend, your girlfriend, your mom, your dad, brother, sister, friend, coworker, whatever. Be the change that you want to see in the world, as one Mahatma Gandhi said. It's really worth it. It's really worth it to bring joy to other people. So give that a shot. That's my 2 cents on the topic. But I digress. This is my third attempt to try and record this since my microphone was acting up on the other two attempts to record the intro to this little yap session. And I'm in my feelings tonight. I'm waxing nostalgic a little bit and all that sort of thing. So thank you for bearing with me here. What did I want to talk about? Well, A Silly Little Time has been quite busy. A lot of projects going on. Well, two major projects at the moment. There was the release of the single back in March, To Plastic We Return, and shortly after that was a reading that I threw together on pretty short notice. A reading of an original script that I wrote titled March of 10. That's right, March of 10. You can find that on my YouTube channel. What can I say about it? Well, it was something that occurred to me. It was an idea that occurred to me last year while I was, or after I wrote the song of the same title, March of 10. You may be familiar with it. It is also on my YouTube channel. And in that song, it tells the story of nutcrackers and toy soldiers who are fighting against the forces of the evil Rat King, a la Nutcracker Ballet. I'm sure you've seen it, Christmas favorite. But I set them in a mechanized 20th century world, shall we say, after the age of industrialization. What would happen if, the Nutcrackers and the toy soldiers had a huge pitched battle with the Rat King and his minions? What would that look like? So, it's kind of a grinding, industrial, very aggressive track. I love it. Big fan of that particular song. But it inspired me to write a script that really fleshed out the story behind the song. There's these unnamed nutcrackers. They're fighting the Rat King. They're fighting the rats. But what happens exactly? Well, in the script, it tells the story. There's the toy soldiers, and they're fighting against the rats. They get totally obliterated, and so they get pushed back from their position, and they think to themselves, okay, shoot, we're really suffering right now. What do we have to do? Well, I guess we'll have to go to the Nutcrackers, and everybody kind of is pulling their collars and going, ooh, yeesh, ouch, okay, we got to go to the Nutcrackers? Well, okay. Nobody feels particularly good about it, because the Nutcrackers are, I don't want to spoil it, but the Nutcrackers are, they're men of fortune, shall we say. Or maybe they're not men. They're individuals of fortune, led by their intrepid commander, the Nutcracker commander, and he demands a very particular price for his services. And it's a bit of a dark fantasy with a little bit of body horror, and I hate to say steampunk, because I think steampunk as a genre kind of sucks, and it's been tainted by really cringe associations, like dorky guys in top hats and cargo shorts or whatever, wearing goggles and everything. But there's a little bit of a biomechanical, a clockwork element to this whole thing. But that being said, regardless of all that, interesting project, really good project. I do all the voices myself. It's original script, as I said, so I built the darn thing from the ground up. So give it a listen. Yeah, it's pretty interesting. Is it perfect? Well, of course it's perfect. I wrote it. I put my stamp of approval on everything that I release. So yes, absolutely, it is perfect, flawless. And if you don't like it, well, I'm sorry, you have no taste. Oopsie daisy. I can't help that. But all joking aside, I'm quite pleased with it. So I think you might find it interesting as well. It's about an hour and a half long. Well, hour and 45 minutes long. It's good for your commute, good for good for a listen. So go check it out. Go check it out. Well, yeah. Don't think that A Silly Little Time has been resting on his laurels, because he has not. Before I get into my current projects, I'd like to pivot about, I don't know, 90 degrees, and talk briefly about one of my great loves, one of my great inspirations, thematically, creatively, as a writer, kind of as a songwriter as well, and that would be the world of Frank Herbert's Dune. The universe of Dune, or the Duneverse, as some have called it. Um, if you live under a rock, you'll probably be surprised to know that there has been an adaptation of Frank Herbert's Dune that came out in theaters recently. There was the first part that came out in 2021, and then the second half, which recently was released this year. I think it was in March or something like that. Yeah, I think it was in March. And God, I saw it in theaters, and boy, was it phenomenal. Just phenomenal. Fairly faithful to the book, I will say. There's like a couple of things. Oh, darn it. Dropped my vape. Isn't that the story of my life? Oh, there we go. Sorry about that, folks. Anyway, what was I saying? Yeah, fairly faithful to the book. A couple of changes. I mean, it's an adaptation. You can't do everything, nor would you, for any given movie. But there's a lot of changes that I liked. Some were, some were bold, and I appreciated the commitment to it. So that's that. But anyway, yeah. So if you haven't seen Dune 2 or Dune Part 2, and it's still playing in a theater near you, I would highly recommend going and see it. Like, go see it in IMAX. Get a bucket of popcorn, take a date, get a nice tall drink, and just sit back and relax and enjoy this beautiful specimen of movie magic. I mean, Kino, as some people call it. It was a, like, totally phenomenal experience. I was sitting on the edge of my seat. I was just chuckling to myself. I was so pleased watching this darn movie. Just great. Just great. Everything about it, the aesthetics, the score, the pacing, never dragged a single moment. I was engrossed the entire time, and that's like a 2.5 hour movie. Maybe it's like even 3 hours. I don't know. Phenomenal movie. Yeah, what was I going to say about it? The casting was good. Timothy Chalamet as Paul. He's a couple years older. He's grown into the role a little bit. Zendaya as Chani, also good, very good. The change that they made from the book, where she's a little more independent and has some conflict about whether or not she wants to actually see Paul become, the Kwisatz Haderach, and fully realize his identity as the Messiah of Dune, the Lisan al-Gaib. I thought that was an interesting touch. As far as I've read about screenplays and adaptations and movies and stuff, yeah, you always got to need to add conflict. Conflict is interesting. Conflict drives the story. Well, they added conflict there. She's conflicted as to whether or not she really wants to have her boyfriend become, a genocidal space tyrant, or have the potential, or lead down the path that will cause him to become a genocidal space tyrant. But, interesting choice. It was committed to and done well. So, good on them. Very good. Interesting. And fun watch. Fun watch as far as, like, watching that thread of the story unravel. What else? Oh, yes. Criminally short screen time appearances by Anya Taylor-Joy as Paul's sister, Aaliyah, and I felt that Florence Pugh as Princess Irulan was underutilized. But then again, I love them both. They're wonderful women, amazing actresses, and yeah, frankly, if both of them showed up at my door, or one or the other showed up at my door and asked politely to beat me to death with a claw hammer, well, I'd let them in. I'd take them down to the garage. I'd show them around and say, hey, look, here's a couple options. Really test it out, give it a couple swings, see if the weight's good, and just go to town. And so, yeah, no, they're wonderful. They're wonderful. There was a change that was made in the movie wherein Alia was not actually born by the conclusion of the movie. And if you know anything about the book, if you have you read Dune, like 10 people are going to get that reference. And frankly, if you don't get it, it's a terrible cringe reference. So I'm not going to bother spelling it out because it's far too stupid and trite to explain. But anyway, so if you've read Dune, you'll know that Aaliyah is born like, I don't know, 3/4 through the book, and she's an abomination. Her mother, Lady Jessica, drank the water of life and imbued her daughter with precognition and the ancestral memories of her female line. So yeah, that didn't happen in the movie. She's still not born. She's still Rebecca Ferguson is waddling around, enormously pregnant and looking very uncomfortable at the end of the film, like literally at the end of the film. It's like the last shot of the film. And Aaliyah is not born yet, so it's Paul that kills the Baron Harkonnen, his grandfather, which was a change. It was a change. I'm not going to say it was good or bad, but it was an interesting change. They committed to it, and it looked good, so whatever. That's fine. Very well. Go on, Denis Villeneuve, and do your thing, as they say. But yeah, I don't know. It was good to see that like little cameo appearance. I really look forward to seeing her in Dune Messiah, or Dune 3, as they're going to call it, whatever. But yeah, that was one of the weird changes that I thought. That was like the only change I thought that was weird about the movie. But whatever. Still an amazing movie. Go see it. You'll have a great time, and you'll come away, and you'll like, you'll be cheering for Paul and wondering what's gonna happen next. But of course, you know what happens next if you've read all the books, like I have. Which I don't say that to brag. It's kind of it's not really it's not really an accomplishment. Yeah, I've read all 6 of Frank Herbert's original Dune books. So that would be Dune, Dune Messiah, Children of Dune, God Emperor of Dune, Heretics of Dune, and then Chapter House Dune. I don't think they call it Chapter House Dune, but it's Chapter House, whatever. And it's been a really big, part of my journey as a media consumer and a reader, is reading those books and taking cues from Frank Herbert as far as like the writing style is concerned, the syntax, the phrasing, and even turns of phrase. Like there's one thing that Frank does that pisses a lot of people off, and like, oh, this is not like proper writing. He does what's called head hopping. So that's when you kind of that's where in a scene you narrate the internal monologue of different characters while they're in the same room, and you jump from one person's head to another. So it's like, John was sitting at the table. Oh, Bob's socks are really ugly today. And, Bob's standing in the corner, and then, Bob thinks, oh, John's looking at my socks. He thinks they're really ugly. And generally you don't do that. It's frowned upon or something. I don't know exactly why. They say it's confusing, but if you can do it well, which Herbert does for the most part, it works. So I don't know, but avoid head hopping, I guess, if you're trying to write or something. I don't know. I'm not your English teacher, so I don't have any special authority as far as that's concerned. Yeah, that's my thoughts on the matter. We're going to take a little break, and right here I'm going to slip in a single that came out last year, 2023. This has to do with the upcoming segment where I talk about what I've been up to, my latest escapades, and I promise it's related. So sit back, relax, and enjoy this single. The single is called March of 10.
The only butchery begin, leave no vermin spawn alive. Break their ranks with our charge, we'll make banners of their skin when the Rat King falls tonight. Hear the cries as they die when the possible flies, spattered blood on painted grin. Oh, these rats, how they wail when you sever squirming tails, trampled by the march of kin. How they swirl as the day opposition melts away as the die-cast sabers fall. Break their backs, hear the crack, we redouble our attack, tally-ho and kill them all. They're diseased and deformed, we're the only of our scorn, they defile and eat our kin. They'll expire on our fire, terrified of cleansing fire, amplify the march of sin.
Oh, what am I, brother? Our march! No retreat! Kill them all! They'll have the Rat King's head underneath the Christmas tree!
Ready? Raise! Aim! Fire at will!
And with that, folks, welcome back. Hope you enjoyed March of 10. Yeah, do what you want. Make your own choices as far as like what you do creatively, but yeah, that's gonna be my challenge that I issue to everybody who listens. You know, if you have something that you like to do, if you're creative, or even if you're not creative, shoot, just go and do something like paint a picture, write a poem, you know, try pottery or something. I don't know. Sing, yeah. Singing's good. It's really good for you. You just having that creative outlet is a wonderful thing. Even if you're not good at it, that doesn't matter. Just go do stuff. You can get, you know, there's something that they say about writing. You know, it's called a rough draft for a reason. It's going to be rough. So, if at first you don't succeed, just keep doing it, and you'll get better. And that's the only thing to it, really. Nobody's perfect at the you know, when they try anything for the first time, except for me, of course. Everything I do is perfect and wonderful, and you should enjoy it and appreciate it. A joke, of course, but yeah, just go do something, even if it sucks. Just do it. Just keep doing it, and you'll feel better for having done it. Yeah, that's what I have to say about that. What else? Yes, so what am I doing? What am I up to? A silly little time. What are you up to? What are you doing, man? Well, I wrote a book. That's it. You're darn right. I wrote a book. But a silly little time, you say. What did you write a book about? Is it a memoir? Is it, you know, a tell-all about your amazing, interesting, chaotic, freaky life? No, it's not, as a matter of fact. It's a complete work of fiction. It is a work of fiction, a dark fantasy novel. How do I describe it? What's the tagline that I'm looking for? This is a folk horror novel. So, if you hear that, it may bring to mind, like, the movie Midsommar by Ari Aster. It came out a couple years ago, very popular. You know, it's about folk stories with horror elements, drawing upon mythology or drawing upon, you know, fairy stories or folk stories, things in that genre. And I call it a folk horror story because it's kind of written in a way that evokes a folk tale. Just kind of the choice of words is archaic. The phrasing is a little bit archaic. like not to a degree that's stilted or anything or too weird. I just wanted to really give it that feel. It's an old-timey feel. The book is set in a fictionalized, so like, world is completely different than ours. It's got a lot of the same properties and stuff, but it's kind of set in like a fictionalized 17th 18th century level of technology Eastern Europe. And I say that because I say that because of the naming conventions, and some of the climate. Like, I've done my research. It's like, okay, what trees are native to this part of the world, Eastern Europe? Like, what is the what foods, what are the what are the naming conventions? What's the terrain like? What are the seasons like? That sort of thing. I paid special attention to that and tried to weave that into the story, because without those little details, you don't have much of a world. It's just a blank box where people run around and slam into each other and stuff. But I'm getting a bit ahead of myself. So what is the book called? The book is called Golden Threads. Golden Threads, and then the subtitle, The Book of Davatsya, Lady of Carmine and Gold. So it's kind of a mouthful, but again, it's in the style of a folktale. So yeah, that would be, all told, Golden Threads, The Book of Davatsya, Lady of Carmine and Gold. And as you may guess, our main character, our protagonist, her name is Davatsya. And that's Davatsya. Davatsya. Yeah, it purposely evokes that kind of Eastern European spelling. I was hunting around for a name that I thought would be appropriate for my protagonist, and I was kind of running things. I was throwing things out there. I was like, okay, Dana, Dala, but I settled on Dava, and so I looked it up, and it led me down kind of a rabbit hole about, you probably have heard of a dacha before, which is a D-A-C, that's spelled D-A-C-H-A, and it's like a summer house that a lot of Russian people have. They'll have their house in the city, their apartment in the city, but then they'll go to their summer house, they'll go to their dacha for vacation and whatnot, and I actually learned about the etymology of dacha. Excuse me. And the word dacha it's a diminutive, and I think it's like a verb that means to give as a gift. To give as a gift. So there's some verb out there of which dacha is a diminutive, and it means to give as a gift. And so I've decided that the main character, Davatsya, her name has a similar etymology. It's specifically referred to as being an old name, a name with some auspicious undercurrents. It's kind of an old. It would be like a person named, like Leroy or Mabel or something like that in their time and place. It's like a couple of the characters say, oh yeah, oh Davatsya, yeah, well, I got an aunt named Davatsya, I got a grandmother named Davatsya, but she died when I was 10 or whatever. So that's what is what about that. But yeah, Davatsya, she is a young woman. The book starts out when she's born, and we quickly learn that Davatsya is not your average run-of-the-mill, ordinary young woman. As a matter of fact, she has something about her that is a little bit special and a little bit strange. So, this being a folk horror novel, there's no like explicit magic system. People aren't firing spells at each other or doing ancient curses or this, that, and the other. They're not levitating off the ground and flying around on broomsticks. No, it's the real world, but there's just some weird shit that can be explained sort of by biological means, scientific means, but it's just a little weird, There's just like things. There's things that are strange, and it just so happens that one of these strange things is the fact that Davatsya, our main character, she's the daughter of a human woman, but her father was a vampire. A vampire? Like Dracula, he turns into, he turns into a pile of ash if he sees the sunlight. He hates garlic and crosses and whatever. Well, maybe, maybe not. No, he's just a vampire. He has a desire and a strong addiction to drinking human blood, and that has been passed down to his daughter, Davatsya. And so that would put her as that would make her a dhampir. So Dhampir. She's not a vampire. She's a dhampir. And a dhampir, it's kind of like a buffed human, but a nerfed vampire. They have immunity to, garlic and silver and crosses and all that other stuff that's associated with vampire folklore. But she's not nearly as strong or immortal or whatever as a vampire. She can't like turn into a bat and fly away, anything like that. She's just a human being that has a particular desire to. She has a particular predilection for. How do I pronounce this? Hemophagy. She has hemophagic tendencies, I think it is, and that is a desire to consume human blood. And that puts her a bit at odds with the people around her, with her small village, her small, vaguely Eastern European-esque village where she lives, raised by her single mother. And the townspeople think she's a little bit weird. She was born out of wedlock. She's described as not having the village look, quote unquote. So dark eyes and thin faces and close set eyes and all that sort of stuff. No, Davatsya is kind of an unusual woman. She's got long blonde hair and this alabaster skin and these really big and bright amber eyes, that set her apart physically from everybody else, and as a result kind of isolates her socially from other people. She's wondering, okay, I'm different. I know I'm a little bit different. I don't know why I'm different. So what's this all about? How I don't exactly fit in. People don't take to me all that much, and I don't get it. And she's trying to struggle with her identity. She doesn't know she's a dhampir. She was a vampire. She doesn't know anything about her father. Her father's gone. Her father up and flew the coop. It was a one-night stand with their mother, and he trotted off into the wild blue yonder, never to be seen again. And too bad, so sad. And 9 months later, Dava popped out, and it circles back to the theme of parenthood and children and such, in that when Davatsya, or Dava for short, it's how I most commonly refer to in the book for short, Dava comes under the tutelage of the midwife that helped deliver her. Now, it's this old woman living in her village. Well, she's not old. I mean, insofar as like being, in your late 50s is old. Again, she's no spring chicken, but she's not like, ancient or whatever. But she comes under the tutelage of the midwife. The midwife chooses her and says, "Yeah, you're going to be my apprentice. You're kind of an outcast. You're kind of a weirdo. But I'm going to thumb my nose at the village powers that be. So yeah, it's time for me to choose an apprentice and find someone to carry the torch of midwifery. So here, yeah, Dava, you come with me. I'm going to teach you the midwifing ways, and I'm gonna take you under my wing and that sort of thing." And so here we have a half human, half vampire who, of course, in her line of duty as a midwife's apprentice, is going to run up against, well, blood a lot. It's not an easy business giving birth to children. So there's a lot of conflict built into that, and of course, conflict drives everything. There's conflict in who is Dava? What does Dava think of herself? How is she in relation to other people? And how is she going to react and interact with her line of work? This line of work that she's been thrust into. And it only gets crazier from there. There's all sorts of shit that happens, all sorts of crazy stuff. This story is kind of a prequel to March of Tin, because there was one character in March of Tin who is a vampiric entity known as Mother, and who has all the physical descriptions that, she was described in a very similar way to Davatsya, in that she is, this unearthly, beautiful lady, who has a desire and ability to consume huge quantities of human blood, and that was kind of the impetus for writing this story. I figured, well, this character Mother really got my noggin jogging, must have an origin, so the book kind of sprang out of that thought and really wrote itself. Just trying to think of interesting things to happen and what exactly this character's backstory was. So, yeah, I'm currently in the editing process. I've written the book. I've written the story. I've got like 230 some pages that I'm trying to edit at the moment, and I've printed it out. I'm going over it in red pen, grammatical stuff, turns of phrase that don't work or whatever. But yeah, hopefully I'll try and submit it to some publishing houses. Maybe something will happen. If I don't get any bites, then I'll maybe do like a short run with self-publishing and retain the rights to shop it around after the fact. But just get it on paper and get it out there and see what happens from there. Because I'm pretty pleased with the end product. I got some work to do still, but it's a good story. It's a really interesting story. There's a lot of stuff that happens, a lot of conflict, a lot of really interesting emotional things that occur in there. It's Dava's transition from being this young village girl, this young village woman, into a more worldly woman, more experienced, more seasoned in understanding. She experiences loss and conflict, and achieves a lot of interesting things. And yeah, I don't want to spoil it. The book will be out pretty shortly, so I'm just giving you a taste of what's to come there. And I've already started on a sequel. The story's not over. She exists. She and all the characters in it exist after the final page of the book is done. So I've kind of built that into the epilogue that I tacked on the edge of the first book, Golden Threads, the Book of Davatsya, Lady of Carmine and Gold, and there will be a sequel. So I'm currently working on that. A lot of interesting things are going on there, new characters, and more development of the characters with which you, if you read the first book, with which you become familiar. Yeah, and because I'm on TikTok, unfortunately, I'm aware of the phenomenon that is book talk, and I can just hear people saying, "Ooh, spice level? What's the spice level, bro? Tell me about the spice level." I don't know. It's not about that. Like, there is some incidental, like, stuff, like people fall in love, they meet people that they like and have relationships, and obviously as part of that, there's going to be some intimacy. So there's intimacy in there, yeah, sure, and it's not gratuitous or slapped on or slathered on or whatever, but it's there. Like, if I was to put a trigger warning for this book, it'd be like, auto cannibalism, sexual content, violence, depictions of violence, descriptions of violence, a lot of violence, gore, blood, injuries, and just delicate topics, stuff like that, pertaining to sexual conduct and assault and stuff. Hopefully, if you read it, tastefully done, tastefully portrayed. It's not gratuitous. It's not like exploitative. It's not like a grindhouse flick or anything like that. But just shit happens, unfortunately, and I tried to approach it in a tasteful and understanding and sober manner, and the bad guys, fortunately, do get punished. So there's that little flame of hope that we can hold on to there. But yeah, so I should be done with that pretty soon. Like I said, going over it in red pen, making some changes, this, that, and the other thing, and I've been toying with the idea of doing readings of the book here on the YouTube channel, just like a couple chapters at a time. They're fairly short chapters, but just something to whet people's appetite, because the story, like, I think the story is really compelling. Like, I could sit there reading, I wrote the darn thing, of course, but and maybe I'm conceited, maybe I am, perhaps. But I don't know, I just find it really engrossing, and I think other people find it really engrossing. I've had a couple of people read it so far, and they're like, oh, okay, wow, this is interesting. I like this. The characters pop. It's compelling. So hopefully, if you buy a copy of it, pretty please, once it's done, you will find it engaging, engrossing, and captivating as well. And perhaps you might even, write a review of it, or make a video responding to it, or I don't know. Who knows? We may never know. We'll find out. But yeah. So that's what A Silly Little Time is doing. It's writing a book. Well, wrote a book, editing a book, revising a book. And yeah, that's going to be occupying my time for the foreseeable future. And I really am very anxious to share that with you. Very anxious. Because I think you'll like it. I really do. I really do think that you'll find it enjoyable and captivating. So, yep, that's about all I can say about that for now. This yap session has gone on for long enough. I'm looking at the timer here, 37 minutes, 37 and a half minutes, pretty good. So I think I'll leave it here. I'll throw on the outro music. As always, you can find me here on YouTube. You can go to my Bandcamp, which I will put in the description below. Help me out, give my songs a listen, maybe buy something. That would also be nice. But yeah, thank you so much for listening. As always, this has been your host, A Silly Little Time, and this has been a silly little dispatch. So, a bientôt, my friends. Until next time, friends, Romans, countrymen, have a wonderful evening, afternoon, morning, wherever you are, however you are. And to close it out, we're going to play To Plastic We Return, which is the most recent single. You can find it on YouTube, Bandcamp, etc., etc., etc. Be sure to follow me on TikTok. And with that, cheers, folks.
From dust we all were made before the end of history. America the beautiful was bound to have her say. All the plastic we became, our flesh is now a mystery. We wonder what went wrong, what happened to the old way. This gilded road, I ache for some sincerity. The pleasures of the plastic world demand my precious time. My body is not my own, it belongs to my posterity. This treasure of the moment is poison the ground beneath our